In 1804, President Thomas Jefferson sent Meriwether Lewis and William Clark on an expedition to explore the Louisiana Territory and seek out an all-water route to the Pacific Ocean. The 2.5-year-long journey began in St. Louis, Missouri, and went to the Pacific Ocean and back.
There were many goals for the journey. The main goals were to discover a route to the Pacific Ocean, create detailed observations of plants, animals, and the geography, as well as establish good relations with the natives.
There was a lot of preparation required and supplies needed for the expedition. For example, there were mathematical instruments, camping supplies, and clothing. This included hand compasses, a telescope, a set of plotting instruments, chisels, hatchets, mosquito curtains, coats, blankets, and knapsacks.
They also brought arms for protection, presents for the Native Americans, and medical supplies. These supplies consisted of over 50 caliber rifles, knives, a long-barreled rifle, 4,600 sewing needles, silk ribbon, yards of bright-colored cloth, tourniquets, 3,500 doses of diaphoretic, and lancets.
There are many members involved in the Corps of Discovery. 29 individuals were active participants in the organizational development. There were also 2 French-Canadian fur traders, a Newfoundland dog named Seaman, and Sacagawea, a Native American interpreter and symbol of peace.
The explorers traveled from St. Louis to Fort Pierre, to Fort Mandan, to the Great Falls, and finally arrived at Fort Clatsop. They witnessed many natural phenomena, harsh weather, and challenging obstacles in their quest to reach the Pacific. In Fort Mandan in North Dakota, Lewis and Clark observed the Northern Lights, also known as the Aurora Borealis. They recorded the amazing sights of these bright yet pale lights in the sky and reported that it was unlike anything they had ever seen before. The Rocky Mountains were one of their greatest geographical challenges. They witnessed many mysterious occurrences, such as unidentified Mutis noises. They heard booming sounds like artillery being fired and thunder on clear days. Modern-day scientists believe these noises were a phenomena known as Brom tides. One of their greatest challenges was getting through the Lolo Pass, a 200-mile journey of dangerous peaks.
During the expedition, the travelers came upon 50 Native American tribes. Each tribe was different and taught Lewis and Clark a great deal. They learned many different definitions for the word Indian. Some tribes had never seen or spoken to a white man before, while others wore hats and coats that they had received from the Europeans. Lewis and Clark created a ritual that they had used when meeting a tribe for the first time to inform the tribe that their land now belonged to the United States and the president was now their new great father. The Mandans and Teton-Sioux were 2 very different tribes that Lewis and Clark interacted with. The Mandans lived in earthen homes, farmed and traded with the Americans. The Teton-Sioux lived in teepees, hunted buffalo, and defended their territory. While most tribes were peaceful and nice to the explorers, the Teton-Sioux and a few others were not.
Lewis and Clark observed many plants on the journey. These plants included bearberry, bitterroot, elkhorn, glacier lily, snowberry, sweet grass, tobacco, wild ginger, and many more. They noticed that tobacco grown by the natives had a 4-valve seed capsule, unlike any other tobacco with 2 valves. The nicotine in this tobacco was under 1%, opposed to just over 8%. Wild ginger was similar to Canadian wild ginger in taste. When they found it at Fort Mandan in the spring of 1805, they sent it to the president.
Lewis and Clark viewed many animals on their journey, including grizzly bears, elk, black-tailed prairie dogs, and piping plovers. The grizzly bear was the largest and most frightening animal they had ever seen. They learned that the Native Americans would only hunt one if there had been 6 and 10 men. It took 10 bullets to kill a grizzly bear that they encountered. They also discovered that elk were larger than deer, easier to kill, and had been better for meat and skinned for clothes. They even captured a white-tailed prairie dog and sent it to the president.
After 2 years, 4 months, and 10 days, the Lewis and Clark expedition came to an end. The men successfully traveled from the Mississippi to the Pacific.
On their journey, they gathered and observed valuable resources and information while mapping this new territory. Thanks to Lewis and Clark, the Louisiana Territory became a much less mysterious place for the Americans.
When the explorers were ready to travel back to St. Louis, the men parted ways to take 2 separate routes home. On September 23, 1806, while rowing their way down to St. Louis, 3 rounds were fired, and as they reached land, the people gathered and cheered their arrival.